Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Heroes World Podcast Quarantine Edition. I am your host, Stu Pei. With me today, as always, is the owners and proprietors of the Heroes World store in Markham, Ontario, John and Andre. Please say hello.
Hello, everybody.
Howdy, folks.
And with us, our resident Prince of Mischief, Mr. Rob Cadet.
Stu, I was thinking as you were introducing every week about the quarantine podcast, I kind of thought, hey, maybe we can drop the quarantine podcast title. Apparently not. So
Nope.
We're here for the long run.
Yep. It's kind of like, can you drink any time of the day? Well, it's 3 o'clock somewhere.
Yeah.
Quarantine somewhere. Outside of Taiwan and New Zealand. Other than that, everywhere else, gong show. Nonetheless, we are here to finish our recaps and conversations and spoilers about The Mandalorian as the season's concluded. So today we are discussing Chapter 16, The Rescue, Episode 8, the final of The Mandalorian, till who knows when, potentially December of 2021 or January 2022. It's going to be a while. So before we go, we're going to do our favorite segment, which is Andre gives a very unhelpful but not a descriptive description of the episode as best as he can. And then we're going to full spoilers. All right, go ahead, Andre.
All right. So in this episode of The Mandalorian, we have Din Djarin putting together his team to rescue the child named as Grogu. He visits Bo-Katan with Boba Fett and what's her name in the show?
Fennec.
Yeah.
Fennec.
And Fennec, and enlist the help of the 2 other Mandalorians to finally approach Moff Gideon to save the child. They put together an elaborate plan to storm his cruiser. And as we know, that cruiser is filled with dark troopers. The dark troopers throw a wrench in their plan, but in their darkest hour, the Matrix is opened and in flies an X-Wing. Yeah, you know who flies an X-Wing.
This is completely wrong, Andre. You failed completely.
Sorry,
So,
I was just so excited.
You're
so excited about this episode.
You made it 90 yards, and then you fell at the 95-yard line.
You were doing the dance going, I'm going to get the touchdown.
Yeah. So someone saves the day, and episode complete.
All right.
We're gonna get to that. You were so good, Andre. You were so good. You were so close, so close. Okay, so you can tell Andre having a glint in his eye, a smile in his face. That cool thing happened for 6 minutes that made some people weep, some people cry, and some people grin from ear to ear. So
lots of things make lots of people grin ear to ear that last 6 minutes. All right,
or less. So here we go. I'm gonna start off with John. Give us your overall thoughts about the episode, and kind of, go for it.
I don't know what to say, but typically I go in with no expectations, and I think this episode I did have expectations. So quick shout out to people: if you're gonna post and you post stuff like this was the greatest thing ever, no spoilers, that is technically a spoiler.
Oh yeah, 100% spoiler.
But you know what, stay my ass off social media, that's fine, but that's how life runs. But I think my expectations were just a little too high for this episode. As Andre mentioned, a certain guy shows up.
Spoilers. You can say whatever you want. Now it's
So my boy Luke Skywalker shows up. I don't know what I should cover first. I wanted to be more hype about this episode and love it as much as everybody else does out there. I understand why maybe it came out the way it is. There's different directors. There's time constraints. And it's also hard to top. Like if you start to backtrack, I was like, oh, maybe we'll do like what was the best episode of this season. And when you start doing that type of stuff, then you kind of find out like the expectation for something to cap off this season, or almost any season, or even any third act of a movie. It's very hard to finish strong, I guess. So it wasn't quite there for me. I still really enjoyed the episode. The action felt a little inconsistent to me. A lot of running in, guns blazing, which I'm fine, if that's what you're doing in the episode. but why have a really cool scene like Ming-Na? I think probably got one of the best scenes in the whole episode, of her, you know, doing all these cool shots, dodging and flipping and hiding behind stuff, and then every other scene was them running in, going pew 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 pew, shooting
fair,
everything.
John, Ming-Na's winning at life. She doesn't need any more. She's a Disney princess. She's part of Marvel. She's part of Star Wars. She's the only one who is all three. She's fine. Don't worry about Ming-Na.
No, she's killing
Ming-Na.
it, and it's great that she actually gets a scene. But I'll even throw it back to like when Rob was talking about the Rodriguez directed episode, like the action in that definitely 100 times better than this one. But maybe this wasn't an action episode. Maybe this was more about like kind of finishing the story, setting up the next season.
I to your point, John, the guns part was kind of lowered down to make up for the awesome Jedi stuff on the other side. Like you wanted to.
I'm wondering if they spent all their money on the Man Here's intro. We got to see some really cool stuff. I know a lot of people talk about he's never done anything like that in the movies. He's done some very cool stuff in the comics, so I wasn't as in awe as everybody else. And I can't believe they didn't play the Force theme at all. Not even a little snippet.
They wouldn't. It doesn't make sense.
It does. You have Luke Skywalker. That's his theme.
It's not the theme. That's Luke Skywalker's theme.
I think they should have.
The other thing is fanfare. It's a call to adventure. So it's a different song for a different thing. And it's not.
No, but they took Ahsoka Tano's theme, did they not, and splice it in?
Sorry.
They put Ahsoka's theme, they spliced it in, and there was another character they've taken there.
They played Ahsoka and Yoda's theme.
They've spliced in themes. So I would have liked a little bit of, you know, the Force theme.
Stu, you
Luke's
yourself
theme,
said this show's not about Jedi, so that's why the music's different. And then this one they put in the Jedi that everybody wants to see, and they don't use the most iconic music for it.
Of it.
Yeah,
but that's me. That's me. That's me projecting my expectation.
But
like, you know, Luke Skywalker is my guy.
The episode, like you're making it seem like you didn't know who it was, and that's why they did the X-wing. Then it was black and white. Then you saw the lightsaber. Then you saw the glove. Then you built up to it, and you did like
they could have saved it a little bit towards the end. Even him coming up the elevator.
Off the helmet, when he took off the robe, it was Luke's theme. So like at the end of the day, and then playing that would take away from the buildup of what the episode was. Like to see that and to hear it immediately, you're like,
who else iconically as a Jedi that we've seen or as an individual flies an X-wing?
Well, here's the thing, Andre.
Right? So don't I agree. I agree with your opinion. I'm happy you have your opinion.
No, I understand. Maybe they wanted to keep it like, you know, like the anticipation.
The moment we saw that black and white thing, everybody had to know it was Luke. If people didn't know it was Luke, then again, why are they watching the show? And again, sorry, John, I'm cutting you off. Go ahead. I don't want to.
We're gonna get back to you in a second. That's fine. Well,
but the Force theme can be associated with many characters as well. It's called a Force theme. You know what I mean? Like, but you know, that's me saying I wanted to see that. It would have really put the icing on the cake. And I was a little disappointed to see CG Luke and not, you know, Sebastian Stan, like the internet again, you know, the internet kind of creating these expectations. So basically that means this Luke Skywalker is appearing this episode and going away, and that's it. So I was excited when he was dicing those guys up, crushing things. I was like, oh, this is so cool. Maybe season 3 we're gonna get like Luke Skywalker and Grogu like kind of like showing up and stuff like that. But yeah, so now the fact that they use that CG face and stuff like that, this is probably it. That's probably all we get.
Yep.
So he probably won't be back next season.
Yep. Nope.
Maybe somehow Grogu will get back to the Mandalorian, and then but overall I did enjoy the episode. It was fun. There's a lot of cool stuff, like the Dark Trooper with the Terminator kind of like slant. Some of the end fights.
Okay, you're
Mandalorian versus
okay,
you're
trailing off.
Anyway,
you're out. You're out of bullets.
I was sad that they're being separated. So I did feel that especially after the taking the speech at the end of the last episode. I really wanted the Mandalorian to take apart Moff Gideon instead of kind of just letting him slide.
He did, but you need Moff Gideon alive. Rob, go for it.
I quite enjoyed it. I always approach these things. I do not have the depth of knowledge as the Star Wars universe. I didn't read the books. I barely touched the comics. So I'm just really coming. I didn't watch many of the cartoons. So I couldn't get into it. So I'm coming from like the movies, just in a pure enjoyment. I understand John's concerns about having his high expectations. Listen, I'm a huge Lost fan. So I'm going to take it back to Lost, the end of season 1, where everybody was expecting to find out what was in the hatch. And all they did is they open up the hatch and the camera pans down. And as it goes down, that's all you see. And that was the it. And you're like, what? I had expectations for we would find out what it was. But what it does, though, just like this episode, is that it sets you up with a desire. You want more. It's like, I ate part of your dinner and I want the rest. What did you order? I want more of that. And now we have to wait for like about a year or so to get more, right? So that's, I think, is a tremendous amount. Like you're giving me something. Yeah, maybe taste it. I enjoyed it. I want more of it. Now I got to wait for it, right? So I quite enjoyed that aspect. I enjoyed the fact that the directing by Peyton Reed, who just came off of doing that second episode of this season, is completely different, the ice planet with the monsters, than this one. And I think you have to give credit to Peyton Reed. I mean, he changed his directorial style to serve the script as opposed to his own nuances. We talked about Robert Rodriguez. You could see he had very Rodriguez type flares in his episode. So that's cool, right? I enjoyed it. Yes, Andre is right. As soon as that X-Wing comes in, you're like, I know who that is. And my son was like, oh my God, is that going to be like Luke Skywalker? I think that they kept the hood on a bit too long. It felt like a very long procession making his way through with that hood on. But you understand why they couldn't take it off earlier, because budgetary issues with the CGI and everything else like that. I loved seeing the Mandalorian with the rest of his, everybody kind of coming together. I'm glad, I mentioned this a couple episodes ago, I'm glad that we don't have a third season of him still, taking Grogu halfway across the universe, trying to figure out where he's got to go. We're done with that storyline. There's a finality to it. I'm very happy about that. I'm cool to see Grogu come back in season 4 or 5. Let's take some time away. We don't need to see him just yet. Give me something more. I want to see more Mandalorian action with the other Mandalorians. Maybe they're setting up the battle for Mandalore with the Darksaber. Like, all that stuff is cool to me. It's a lot of fun. My almost 12-year-old son was like, yeah, this is great. I'm enjoying this. So from a pure entertainment aspect, this show delivered what it meant to do. I understand the gripes about things, but man, that scene of Luke, even though it took forever, it reminisced about the feeling I had watching the end of Rogue One. And you see Vader coming out and he's doing things that you didn't see him do in the original trilogy. You didn't see him wielding his lightsaber with that type of force, no pun intended. And so I am cool with them taking and expanding on their powers and their mobility issues, because this is not 1978 and 1982. This is 2020. So I get that. I loved it. That's what we want. We want to see a lot more of a powerful Luke Skywalker. So I was all for it. I loved it. The only thing I would say is that unfortunately, the CGI on Luke's face was really lacking. I was really surprised at how poor it looked.
Yep.
But yeah, man, I want more Mandalorian. I'm very excited. And I love that end of credits teaser of the book.
That was cool.
Yeah. So I'm cool. I'm all down.
I think we can universally agree that the CGI for Luke was awful. Like, it wasn't great. It was, especially when he was talking, it's really difficult. And you're like, ew. Like, it was not great. But in terms of like what it meant to have Mark Hamill's voice and to have there, like it would have been jarring to have Sebastian stand there and be like, it just would have taken that one moment. I know, John, you're saying, why can you have, but that moment when he did it and you saw Sebastian, it would just take you out, even though it's like, oh, like maybe in another episode they could replace Luke and it's no problem because you could see him in the background. But that build up to, like Andre was saying, like everyone knew, like I still had doubt. Like I saw it and I'm like, but the feelings were there. I'm like, oh, maybe it's Luke. But like the build up, it was like there. Like a lot of people, even my wife, was like, is it? Would they? None of us thought. We all thought maybe there was a chance it could be Luke, but none of us thought, well, the timelines are off and all this stuff. Like there was a lot of still like they wouldn't do it. Like doubt cast on it. So,
I was expecting them, like they're giving you have the black hand and you got the green lightsaber, and my son's like, I think that's Luke, and I'm like, but because they kept the cloak on for so long, it's like, could they flip it and be somebody? Like you just didn't know, right? So
like I want to get, that's what I wanted to get next. And when I spoke with Rob online, I was like, hey, what I wanted to get his son's perspective on it, because this is one of those moments where, like, when your kid finds out, like, Luke's, like, when Darth Vader says, I knew Obi-Wan lied to you, and like one of those moments when you watch it with someone who doesn't know, and a small child, it's like kind of a big deal. What was your son's reaction like? What was his commentary like watching him? Because although you were also living it with him, I'm sure through a babe's eye, it's a different perspective.
Yeah, well, he really enjoyed it. He enjoyed the reveal of it. I think his idea is like, are we going to get like a Luke series now? I had to explain to him about the Boba Fett series and what that meant, because he was kind of a little bit unsure. But he enjoyed the episode. The one thing though is that I don't think, again, I've mentioned this before, he's a Flash kid. Like, he will watch that stupid show over and over and over again. This is not something that has repeat value for him. And I don't know why that is, because he's watched the movies a billion times. So I don't know if there is anything, or if it's just that he's a tween and he's just like, I like what I like, and I'll watch whatever I want, Dad. So I don't really know. But that's how he talks, by the way. He talks like an 80-year-old smoker. So,
so I was angry that day, like an old man trying to return soup at a deli.
Pass me my beer.
Yeah.
So I'm not really sure if he's got if this has rewatchability for him, and maybe it does. I don't know, but he did really like that episode. He really enjoyed that episode.
All right, Andre, I'll let you say your thoughts. Go for it.
Well, I think John kind of summed it up pretty well. Like, I think a lot of people saying it's the greatest thing ever, and I'm just like, wow, so basically everybody just wants to see a cool lightsaber fight, right? At the end of the day, I don't want to knock people. Listen, I'm glad everybody's entertained by it and enjoying it, but the fact that this glowing stick can just mesmerize everybody to all the other, like, things in the show that could be better. We've done a lot of episodes about the Mandalorian and stuff, but like, let's go back and talk about how what we said about season 1. Oh, look how cool this show is. You don't need to know anything about Star Wars. It's taking place over here. It's all these new characters that you don't need to know. And then season 2 comes around, and there's all these characters and all this background and all this stuff. So if you don't watch Star Wars, don't pay attention. Some people probably didn't know what an X-Wing was. Some people maybe only saw Return of the Jedi once. He doesn't even introduce himself when he makes his appearance. That last scene is probably is the only good thing about that last scene to me was seeing R2-D2 and he yammered more than Luke. If you don't have the money to CG that like a young Tony Stark in Infinity War or Endgame, don't do it. Luke, at that point, it's 5 years after Return of the Jedi. He should have taken off his hood and said, I'm Luke Skywalker. I'm here to rescue you. Boom! Right back to A New Hope. You play the music. That's great. Dude handed over this child and just said, are you a Jedi? Didn't know who the hell he was. Didn't know who he just hand him over. Done.
But if he said I'm Luke Skywalker, would he have been like, oh, I've heard of you? Or would he?
No, I think
they probably would have, because they would have known that Luke Skywalker defeated Darth Vader.
Because Bo-Katan's like, oh, by the way, I know your dad, Anakin, because I asked for his help and he was a dick and said no.
Well,
so,
that's like, unless the name Skywalker is like Smith, right? Maybe it's common name. Anyways, this to me, this show blows it all the time. The dialogue is horrible. The pacing, is horrible. Like John said, these run and gun fights, that scene at the end with Luke running, yeah, it's great. I've read so many novels, comics, played video games that, yeah, seeing it on the screen's cool, but it wasn't new or original to me, right? It just there was just so much stuff that they could have just done better. Oh, hey, let's go and steal another shuttle that happens to have this very important clone doctor in it, and then we're gonna, fly in. Why was that clone doctor not with Moff Gideon if he was so important, right? But I guess, he
had to get supplies.
Yeah, he had to go offsite to the supply run. The cloning wasn't taking place on the ship.
And two like unarmored dudes. I don't know if that's what you normally dress like when you drive a shuttle.
Yeah,
just a skull cap. You don't get the cool helmets and stuff that the other guys get. But
I don't know. And I'll say this: they spent basically 2 seasons building up, a Mandalorian, and he's putting together a team and all this stuff. And literally, they write themselves into a corner where they're all dead unless a Jedi comes and saves them. Right? They're trapped in the bridge. They have no EMP grenades, no nothing. So they wrote themselves, say, well, we just write ourselves in the corner, and then we'll have Luke fly in at the exact moment and do it. Was it cool? Yeah. Was it fan service? Hell yeah. Right? But it makes no sense. Like, if he doesn't come, what was their option? Right? I would have more so enjoyed Boba Fett flying Slave One, shooting the bridge, and them taking a 2-second spacewalk to get into the Slave One instead of this. Right? You know what I mean?
Yeah, but then you're stuck with the kid again. You're stuck with the kid, and you're extending that storyline over.
But then I would have gone back. What? Like, I would have rather Luke showed up once the child put the beacon on, right? Like,
Andre, once they went to Tython, and they basically, he sat on the stone and he connected to Luke. That was pretty much Luke is like, I'm on my way. Like,
yeah, but okay, like, Luke's on his way. How long did it take? I'm just saying, listen, I know it's TV, but why Luke could have got there by himself and saved Grogu then?
I know, but John, it's also very.
And I know it's a show, but and everything. But let me finish. Let me finish, dude. Let me finish. You know, remember that episode in the Discovery series of where the directors are talking and they're like, oh, it's like we got all those bad character figures and now we're making a show. Well, again, season 2, they've played with Boba Fett, Bo-Katan, Ahsoka, and now Luke Skywalker. You know what? Just give me the goddamn Boba Fett show from the beginning. And if you wanted to CG Luke in, put it in. It to me, I think this is really just not ruin the show, but they flipped what they were doing in the first place. So they should have just started with it. Don't give me these episodes in season 1 with these crappy unknown aliens and all this stuff. And then tote that, oh, we're using all the unknown stuff of Star Wars. And then in the last episode, you bring the man in. If everybody wants to see Luke, give us a goddamn Luke show and cast Sebastian Stan. Everybody wants him. Who cares? They want to make money. We'll make money. Don't give me this mediocre, like watered down garbage, basically. And with, like I said, characters that at the end there was zero chance of them. Like Bo-Katan gets to the bridge. Oh, Moff Gideon's not here. Well, why don't you go look for him instead of staying on the bridge doing nothing, right? Or if the ship is boarded, why didn't the stormtroopers close the blast doors? They always close the blast doors to block the stormtroopers getting back. They could have closed the blast doors. All right, guys, come and get us. We know you're coming. Moff Gideon says, I already got the blood from the child. Yeah. Well, then say, hey, Mandalorian, take the child. I don't need it. You don't have to blow up my shit. He could have said, I'll drop the child off on this planet. Go get him. Right?
Don't F up my shit.
I'm just glad that Andre isn't writing TV shows because it'd be 5 minutes. I mean, like, they close the door, lock the door, episode over. I'm like, okay,
Star Wars in 5 minutes.
Like, I understand what you're saying, Andre, and your critique of the show is valid in certain contexts in terms of, I agree with you. Each episode should be a standard 42 minutes. Why are we doing 30 minutes? Why are we doing that? To have and
that 30 minutes includes the intro and the extra and the credits. I mean, so it's like, it's crazy.
So I get it. I'm not disagreeing with you. You're right, because when you add the credits and stuff, it's even less than 30 minutes. Like, you're spending this much money, go the extra distance, make it a 42-minute episode or 40-minute episode, and just make it consistent each week. Go the extra mile, have the extra dialogue. I agree with that. I agree with you on that standpoint of storytelling. Like, in terms of like the extra time, you could explain a few more things. I think they're trying too hard to be Iron Man 2, which is like, oh, if you watch this, we're just going to give you a sense, but now you got to watch these other shows. Like, I get it. It's the gateway drug. Like, season 1 was, your assessment's correct. You don't have to know anything, but season 2 is unraveling the onion, and now you're like, oh, you want to know more about Bo-Katan? You got to watch this show. Oh,
but it's not even unraveling. They just gave it. They just fed it to you with nothing. Like, none of these characters did you learn anything about them. Same thing, Boba Fett. What if somebody didn't watch or only watch the prequels? Like, sure, now he's like, 2 episodes ago he was a Mandalorian. Now he fought what's her name, and they're like, oh, you're not a Mandalorian. Right.
But again,
whatever.
Andre,
it's cool. You know,
I think you're very, very critical, and I understand you're critical because you're looking at it from a writer's perspective. But this is, again, this is a different way of looking at things because of the limitations of television and the limitations of
You
what they can
keep
do
you
in
keep
live
saying
action.
that, but I don't know how the limitations of television make you write
The
something.
limitations of quotation
Or-
live
or
action compared to
not,
the, but
right?
again, let me just finish. Okay, you know what? I'm gonna let you do the last point because
No, go
clearly-
ahead. Sorry. The last point I want to make. Last point. So again, if you watch all of Rebels, which is canon and stuff like that, you see many times with Sabine and all the Mandalorians taking off their helmets. Well, when Din tries to give Bo-Katan the saber and she refuses, literally in Rebels, that's exactly what Sabine did.
Yep.
So I'm just, I don't know why it's ignored. Sure, they can.
It's not ignored. It's not ignored. So let me give this. Andre, I don't understand why you're doing so much a stan of this because, and I get it. It's a part of the series. It's canon, but like the helmet taking off, they're going to address it momentarily.
Right, but-
you didn't give them a chance to do it because this episode was too forced up.
Look, this is the first time we've heard about this tradition of the Mandalorian. So basically, Ezra Bridger held the dark saber. Kanan held the dark saber. What's the other guy in Rebels? I can't remember his name. I wish I remember that Kanan talked to him, and none of them said this. Yet an Imperial guy is going to teach a Mandalorian about a tradition, right?
Well, first
so
off,
now they
Andre,
have to explain it.
Okay,
They
let me
have
talk.
to
Let me
explain
talk to
it.
you,
Just-
Mr. Star Wars. Let me talk to you about this. Mr. Vizsla had the lightsaber, and it wasn't won in combat. The conversation is combat. Sabine stole it from Darth Maul. That's not
No,
combat.
she did not.
She did
Nope.
give it.
Nope.
She did steal it
No.
from Darth Maul.
Listen, Stu, in that episode of Rebels,
We're gonna do
Sabine
another
gets-
episode on this because
Sabine,
You guys have to do a separate deep dive. Me and Rob
Yeah.
are like, what are you guys
Sabine
talking about?
Gets possessed by a shadow a Dathomir Night Sister, and Ezra has to fight her because she has Ezra's lightsaber. Ezra then grabs the dark saber to parry her and fight her. He then gives the saber to Kanan at the end of that episode. Kanan in the next episode or 2 episodes shows the dark saber to, I can't remember the guy's name, the Mandalorian that the Rebels had. So it's now passed hands
His name is
3 times. Okay. Then the Mandalorian says, hey, give it to Sabine. Clan Wren is a name. She potentially could unite the clans. I would follow her. Kanan then proceeds to train her how to use the darksaber. And then she fights the Imperial Mandalorian and then gives it to Bo-Katan, who says, I'm not worthy. Sabine hangs on it again, and then Bo-Katan says, you know what? Yeah, I'll take it this time because this is the second time. So
But I think
Ezra
Moff
didn't
Gideon-
steal it.
Let me go
Nothing.
through this.
Question.
Right? So
I've given
I
you a
will
chance to
also
speak.
say this. Filoni's on both shows, right? If Filoni wanted there to be some trial by fire or trial by combat, why didn't he say it then?
Let
Can I ask
me
a
let me
I'm
question?
sure you can add to stuff and it's stuff, but again, once you like kind of
So
ignore
let me
some of
speak,
your
Andre,
stuff,
because you're just not giving me a chance. Just because you talk the longest doesn't mean you're right. So let me go through this. Filoni is who I trust, and Filoni put in the show that he was given to it. You're correct in that, but there was no trial by combat. And if we get to the show where basically said the other clans didn't believe in her because what did Moff Gideon say? It's not the darksaber, it's the story. So the next season we build upon that and be like, you were just given it by Sabine in the moment. She was standing in front of people. Was like, oh, I guess I'll take it. And then she raised her hand. But there are other clans who are like, you know what? You didn't fight for it. You didn't earn it. You were given it. You didn't do. There was no story to it, and that's why she lost the clan support, and that's why they lost Mandalore. Then
how do
Filoni
you
spoke
know?
to
Have
it.
you seen that?
We talked about the helmet thing. Like we haven't even got to it. Like you're
All right.
making assumptions based on.
Did you guys see the end credit scene where it's Bo-Katan and Mandalorian, and there goes, all right, you owe me a fight, and then she goes ding ding, and then it cuts away, and now we're going into Mandalorian season
Like,
3.
Again, is Filoni part of
We're
the
gonna
show?
believe
Andre?
that
Yes
actually
or no?
existed, John.
He is. So I'm sure that he's going to talk about the fact that this situation
Ding,
that
ding.
had was
What I'm
And they got
saying-
Carl Weathers right
So
there.
we'll make a gentleman's bet that that's probably what's going to happen, and they're going to address it.
Well, what I'm saying,
if you
Stuart,
say that they're not
is
going to talk about
if-
it, you're
if
incorrect.
I think
if
they're going to
Filoni
explain
wanted
it.
to
It was
do it-
funny though when he's like, I yield, take it.
Yeah,
Just
if
take this
Filoni-
stupid
if
thing. I
Filoni
took off
wanted
my
that to
helmet.
be part
You
of
can
the-
take this
the
damn
lore,
saber.
He would have put it in Rebels and Clone Wars. right? If you wanted it to be
But
part
that
of
was
the
a
lore,
mistake that led into it going to somewhere else. Like, again, the ramifications of this is a mistake. And that's the same thing about what Luke is going to do momentarily. So again, the greatness of not the greatness, the fun thing about the show is what you and I liked the most was when Ahsoka was like, I cannot train Grogu because I've seen what happened to the best of us when emotion and attachment is there. And that is the failure of Luke Skywalker in his school. Is like, you know what? I'm take everyone. You embrace emotions, and that leads to Ben Solo destroying everyone and everything. There's a reason why the Jedis don't have children and cut things off, because again, the Force and what happens when you embrace emotions and how that can be twisted against you. So you can see the dichotomy between the two of them and why Ahsoka was like, I can't do it, because she recognizes that this could lead to very bad things. And Luke is like, you know, I got this. And to the point of, hey, Grogu, why did he have to explain anything? Well, one, Bo-Katan would have shot him in the face. But two, if you looked at the way Grogu was, just by a lot of the show is about nuance. And you see Grogu putting his hand up and having the feeling and seeing Luke Skywalker, like they knew that without saying, like, okay, he's good. And Grogu was comfortable going with Luke Skywalker without saying, hi, I'm Luke Skywalker. Because imagine Boba Fett heard that too, be like, Luke Skywalker, the guy that kicked my ass on a skiff? Like, there's so many like problems. Like, you would also be like, well, why didn't Boba Fett come out of nowhere and blow up the ship? Because guess what? Luke Skywalker is the reason why he's with the Sarlacc pit. So like, there's a lot of like, we can nitpick all day about the show, Andre, and I agree with you on many things, but like, there's a suspension of disbelief for it. We just got to roll with it and believe in Dave Filoni. Like my personal Jesus, Ronald D. Moore of DS9, I believe in what he can do, and I believe that Filoni has a plan in place, and that's what led to the fall of Mandalore. He could come out and say, like, I did it this way because we had to show Mandalore was weak, and that's why the clans and infighting, and we needed.
Stu's gone.
Stu teleported. Whoa,
that was crazy. What happened to Stu?
happened?
Yo, did you force slide him?
No, your mic's off. Your mic's off. We can't hear you. No, Andre did something.
Oh, Andre, shut him up. Anyway, hey, I think Stu's got to get his mic working. It's not working
Stu,
right now.
we can't hear you.
I might have still moved.
There you are.
Oh, there you go. Now you're back.
Andre sent the dark troopers for me.
He dropped him down a pit.
Yeah, but
I
like,
thought I went to a coma for. I was like, did I fall asleep? What just happened? Where'd Stu go? On break?
Again, like we look at the show and we.
Oh, you're on mute.
Oh, you're out again. Your mic's out again. Uh-oh.
Oh no.
Now you're back.
Right.
A little bit.
Stu's mic is in and out. Do you guys think this, like, what would you consider the best episode?
For me,
the best episode.
Yeah, the season. While Stu's like fixing his equipment. I want to say it wasn't it? Like,
I really liked the Rodriguez episode. The action for that, and then the Ahsoka Tano episode. For me, those two are like on par with each other, for a little bit of different reasons. But both of those just get me like geek boner. I really enjoy
I think the Ahsoka Tano, because of the story elements, I think it would go higher. Like the action in the Rodriguez one is like top.
All right,
yeah,
I don't know if you can hear me again, or it's working.
And you're back.
Okay, so. Like I agree with you, Andre. I think Filoni, who I trust, will go into detail momentarily, because again, there are things in Star Wars that are canon and we can't fix. Like the fact that this Luke Skywalker thing is going to happen is canon. The fact that the rebellion and like things, you can go in between the main storyline, but it's fixed.
It's gonna be hard. It's gonna be hard for them to weave all these things together.
Oh yeah, like let me just finish my thoughts, Andre, and I'll give it to you. Look, I agree. Like people. Like, you know, the positivity of what people wanted in Luke Skywalker. Like, this is all we wanted in the movies. Luke Skywalker to be awesome. Like, you and I, Andre, read books and seen things in comic books, but we just wanted to see it live action just once. Luke Skywalker being awesome. Just using the Force. Force push. Force pull. Force freeze. Force crush. Like, this is everything you wanted to see Luke Skywalker do outside of Battlefronts. Like, this is what I've dreamed of seeing him do in real life. And for him to use...
There's no list.
and for him to use Jedi Form 5, which Andre, what is Jedi Form 5? Do you know?
I don't remember which one it is.
Jedi Form 5 is the way of the Krayt Dragon. Like, it is the full circle of Anakin Skywalker, who used Jedi
I
4 and
don't think
5.
it's called The Way of the Crate Dragon, but I'll look
You
it up.
can
for
Google
you.
it. It is way it is
Because they all have really weird names like Arturo, Surasu.
that is correct.
And stuff like
Sorsu,
that.
but it's also the way of the crate dragon. Like
That's the subtext. Okay, cool.
So because like Avatar, they learn
like
it
a Bruce
from,
Lee homage.
because from Avatar they learn it from the animal, and then that's the inspiration that moves like. And the way of the crate dragon is an offensive measure that was used by Anakin Skywalker, and you could see it when the fact that Luke did this lightsaber on the back. That's what Anakin did too. So just to see that in live action for the stands out there to see it was great. Like, and we talked about before that the Mandalorian, and I made a joke between Rob and John when you weren't here, Andre, is that you have to treat him like he was homeschooled. Like this guy was basically told his entire life by the armorer, this is the way. And imagine if you were also in that, Andre, if you didn't know any better, you didn't read books, you didn't know the canon. Like he's basically Jin. It's like, read a book, bro. Like pick one up at Heroes World, go to the store. Andre can recommend a Star Wars book and read it because he doesn't know anything. He basically has been homeschooled his entire life and be like, what's a Jedi? Well, maybe if you read a book, you'd know, but he doesn't read books. Clearly, he's just a different character because Bo-Katan is very educated and she knows a lot of stuff, interacted with Ben too, but he's just not that character. But I think he's also the everyman necessary, like Jon Snow, the reluctant leader to carry on, who doesn't carry the baggage of Bo-Katan, because when you see the way that she acts and the way like, oh, I'm friendly, but actually I'm kind of a not so friendly, because you could see the little nuances of like, I've changed the deal. This is what you do. You're taking a ship with me. This is the way. And she's like, she's kind of nice, but teetering to her own agenda. And you could see it too. It's like, I must take Gideon. And at the end, when she's like, she was not very happy about what happened in it too. So again, there's nuances of that, and it'll be a breakdown of what's going to happen momentarily. So like, we have to, there are the seeds that are being built for season 3 in terms of that. Like, and that's the whole thing about the Mandalorian theme was, it's like, Andre doesn't like this quote, but it's Iron Man basically and Spider-Man going, if you're nothing without the suit, then maybe you shouldn't have it. And that's what the Mandalorians are about. It's about creed and honor, and not just the armor itself. Like, you're just not a Mandalorian because you got the helmet. So I think that's the bigger theme, and that's what the clans are all going to fight about what they feel the Mandalorian culture should be about. Because maybe we'll run into Clan Ren, and we're going to run into more Death Watch, and we're going to run into all these people going forward in season 3 and 4. And I look totally excited to it. So nonetheless, I'm glad that the Grogu thing ended. There was feels like you had to feel when he took off. That was the conscious decision for Den to be like, you know what? The Mandalorian's not, this is the way, I can't take off the helmet that was established in the first episode. He grows, he changes, and he's like, forget the helmet. It doesn't matter. This is what I care about, Grogu. I care about the relationships, the clan, the people in the clan is what it is. And not just an antiquated, like, this is the way it has to be. So, I think the show is moving towards a direction that it's to your point, Andre. Yeah, it's not about the entry level. Now it's getting to the point where you need to know stuff to watch the show, and hopefully it makes the episodes longer, because I think,
yeah, what if season 3 is like
it's wasted potential? Like, if they just make it longer, it would be better. That's it. I don't care. Just make it a teeny bit longer each episode. Make each one 40 minutes. That's it. Any final thoughts before we go, Andre? It looks like you want to say something else.
No, I
think it's
just
clear. I think it's clear.
I just think, to put it in another context, like I just want to make sure I can try and be as very clear as possible. So we've had 11 plus years of Marvel movies, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think I would say Rob's probably watched all of them, right? And Rob's probably watched all those other little shorts and all the Marvel stuff that they've done, right? So how would you start feeling if all of a sudden, after making sure you watched every part of this Marvel thing, so the story they have sold you have watched and consumed, and like, okay, I'm on board, and then the next movie comes out and says, oh yeah, but you can time travel this way now. You don't need to go to Ant-Man's quantum verse. So if they start subverting the stuff that they put beforehand, what's the point in consuming and following everything?
Well, yeah,
right? Because then they'll start layering and changing and layering and changing. So then I'm just saying, there's no point to what came prior if they then have to layer a change on top of
Yeah,
it.
but it still exists. That stuff still. If I'm just basically using your example, if they came in and said we don't have to do the quantum realm anymore, there's another way of doing it. Okay, great. There's another way of doing it. That's progression. It doesn't mean what happened before. It doesn't count. It's still there. Just Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. We don't know what's happening with that, but
Right.
maybe they won't be using the quantum realm for time
Rob,
travel.
but
right?
I'm maybe again, I probably didn't make it.
No,
as
I hear
clear
what you're
as
saying.
possible.
What you're saying
Because
though
what
is
I'm
that
saying is, look,
if you have a whole bunch of canon and all of a sudden you're saying, hey, we're shifting gears and we're going a different way, how would I feel? It depends on how the story changes that. What I was thinking this entire time you guys were talking about this, though, is that kind of like Marvel, but Star Wars is so huge. Same with Star Trek, years and years and years, and plethora of information, and so much. Like sometimes the writers of new material get caught. You are a slave to what has come before you, and sometimes you're stuck in a box. And you need to be able to say, okay, you know what? We don't need to adhere to these certain rules and aspects. We can kind of push us a little bit to allow some more creativity. And
Definitely.
I'm okay with that. You don't need to be a slave to this stuff. And, I also thought you guys are talking about Rebels and this and that and the cartoons. But you know what? This can exist in conjunction with that. Nobody's taking Rebels away. Nobody's taking Clone Wars.
I'm not
That's
saying
still
that,
there.
this
Can exist on its own.
Like I said, and we talked about the timeline and stuff. Listen, if all they want to do is take the live action stuff, then take the live action stuff, right? Don't take from the cartoons then.
I think there is a concern because those characters that Andre likes are
they're
being
canon.
used.
They're canon.
Yeah, they're being used, and
canon.
potentially the Rebels is not concluded, so
yeah,
it does affect
it
and how the other.
But they can both exist.
But
they can both exist parallel and without one affecting really the other.
No, but see, that's where it's wrong because
but it's not wrong.
Okay, sorry. Let me not wrong.
Andre wants to be right, so he's trying to just say what he's.
Listen, you know what? I get it, Andre.
No, Andre,
I'm a Doctor Who guy.
We agree with you. Like there's a Star Wars canon legacy that you are the expert in, and now they're adding new stuff that changes what it means to be a Star Wars fan.
But
like, there's a now definitive answer.
And I don't want this to turn into a Rebels thing, but literally, like you guys said, they brought Filoni on board.
Yeah,
Filoni just did 4 years of Rebels and 5 years of Clone Wars or whatever. And like I said, there's a moment where, hey, take the Darksaber, Bo-Katan. Again, I don't know why they would bother to add on to that after, because it wasn't like it was a 1 episode thing. The Darksaber was a thread in Rebels. So Rob, when I say, hey, why change that moment? Why add a layer onto that just for the Mandalorian? It would have been just as cool if Bo-Katan says, yes, I'll take it, and this time I will do better.
I think you're hung up on the fact that, Andre, I think you're hung up on, like, that didn't, they're not discluding that. They're not saying it didn't exist. It's canon. But the thing is, you don't know what's happened in between then to now. So there's a 2 or 3 year gap. I don't know how many years that happened between 5 years, right? Because there's 5 years that happened between her taking the Darksaber and something happened in Mandalore and she's no longer in charge. So there's a gap.
There's way more than 5 years.
Yeah. So then we're gonna find out. We just don't know yet. But it's not like saying you're wrong. Right.
I don't know.
She did take from Sabine. So there's nothing. I think there's just a matter of what happened in between, and she's not giving us the answer yet. But we will get it in the next season. So we just have to wait to find out. That's what Rob said. It leaves you wanting more, as in, like, it's going to give us the answer we want. And Filoni is still part of the show, and Filoni has an answer. So it's not like he's not putting something together, not advising the showrunners and everything happening. So we'll find out, and let's put a pin on this. And then when we get to it, then you can discuss if it makes sense or not. But I think it's going to happen. It's not like they said the show's over and we're erasing Rebels. I think it's, to your point, we talked from the very beginning.
I think there is a concern, though, that you've taken the creator, and you're taking all the characters and taking them. So there might not be anything to kind of like.
But Filoni created the character, so he can use whatever. Like, it doesn't belong.
But I'm saying, but they're essentially removing the content from Rebels and bringing it to Mandalorian, and money talks, and maybe Filoni goes into Mandalorian and he doesn't conclude that Rebels. The animated, right? It gets concluded in Mandalorian instead, right?
Well, like I said, there's
a concern of that. I'm just saying that's what I hear.
They're taking stuff and then adding layers to it. To me, that was stuff that was already already done. Like the helmet thing, we had heard about Death Watch in Clone Wars, and they took off their helmet. So then they had to say, oh, this is an ancient sect of it. And then I don't know if you guys caught it in the last episode. They're like, oh, pure Beskar can do this, and oh, pure Beskar. So I bet you now they're going to say not all Mandalorians have pure Beskar armor, right?
Well, remember
so
in the
they're
first
adding,
episode,
so they're adding these layers, which is
Well-
cool, but they're adding it because they have to explain why it didn't happen in the
Andre,
past.
if you remember season
right?
1, when Werner Herzog explained the Beskar that he had, they explained that it's not pure Beskar. Like, it brought this up in season 1 when he brought the ice cream thing, and he was like, "This is the Beskar that's smelted by the Empire. It's not as pure as the Beskar you're used to, but it's a percentage."
well,
of it."
but
So they brought it
anyways,
up in like season
Oh,
1.
I thought it was pure Beskar because
No,
again,
it was
he's-
not.
his armor's taking shots like a champ, and he had that staff of convenience that he could fight against a lightsaber, right? You know, so yeah, it's
Very
So,
convenient.
so in season
Cool.
season 1, they talked about Werner Herzog talked about, like, again, when the Empire took it and they smelted, like, there's a percentage of Beskar available, and they melted with different things. And
Yeah,
here-
okay.
so they
So-
talked about it.
Can we segue into the after credit scene?
Yeah, go for it.
Because okay, so what did you think of that, Stu?
I liked, he said McClunky. I'm all about that. I like how they added that in as a George Lucas hello to you, because George wanted McClunky badly. So I love how they did that. And I thought Bit Fortuna was dead. So I was like, oh, but it's nice to see he was fat and like just like, you know, there on
Was he on the barge?
he was on the barge. I'm like, wait, didn't he die? I was like, well, he got away. So nonetheless, I was happy to see a fat Bit Fortuna. I was sad I missed Salacious Crumb. Like, maybe he's around there somewhere. I like the fact that, you know, Boba Fett walked in and basically is like,
Owned it.
it was like, I'm tired of being the low-level lackey. I'm going to be the boss, and walked in. I don't know whether he's going to be the new Crimson Dawn. I don't know if he just wants to take the palace over. I don't know. Like, I don't know if he wants to take over Tatooine, but it's the same thing with Cobb Vanth. Why he didn't take it from Cobb Vanth, because Cobb Vanth was part of the Crimson Dawn, and he knew of Cobb Vanth, and he's like, there's going to be a thing where they're going to interact with Justified's Timothy Oliphant, because they're both part of the underworld. And once you're part of the mafia, I guess you don't touch someone part of the mafia. So, like, you know, without starting a gang war. So, like, I think there's potential to it. I don't want too many episodes. I'd be happy with like a 3-4 episode, like how he got out of the Sarlacc pit, and like a few things here. Like, if it's a 6
I don't care how he got out of the
season
Sarlacc
thing,
pit.
I'm like, oh, too much. Because here's the hot take. Timu, I love him, but he's not a great actor. You know, like he's fine, but like you need to surround him with better actors. And let's shout out to Mercedes for doing a Cyclone DDT. Like, Pat must be losing his mind.
Oh,
by
Pat,
watching
yeah,
her
I was
do-
on the chat with Pat, and he
the
was like
wrestling move.
rocket DDT. And,
Yeah, it
and
is
when I
like
saw it, I
when-
was instantly like,
Yeah,
"Did you watch this yet?"
it was like when The Rock did the rock bottom in Star Trek Voyager. You're like, this is amazing, and he rock bottom 7 of 9, and you're like, this is WWE at its finest. But yeah,
Hopefully
that was my
cementing her
thought.
status as an action figure, so Pat can.
Yeah, so
That was
I
a-
think that I don't know what's going to happen, but I think, again, Filoni is involved. As far as I'm concerned, I'm cool. On, like, what are your thoughts?
I'm actually wondering if they're gonna go way back and they're gonna talk about some of the other huts.
Because Baby Hut's still not. We don't know where Baby Hut is.
Well, and also like in Phantom Menace, there was 2 huts, and the huts actually run a lot of things. So I was surprised that they put Bib Fortuna there, because I would have thought that if once Jabba died, just one of the other huts would have taken into that space. So I thought that was
he
very
faked a will. When he
Yeah.
found out
Well-
Jabba was dead, he's like, "I leave my entire empire to
Bib
I think
guy with
Andre.
thing on
I
his
think,
head."
like you said, Andre, like with the when the Empire fell, it left a big vacuum. So I think probably the Hutts fought themselves to death. Like, a lot of Hutts are like, I'm gonna do that. Like, once Jabba fell, it's like any mafia movie. They all started trying to hit each other, and then like just like Game of Thrones, like someone's gonna take over, just like what Mandalorian's gonna happen. Like, someone's gonna take the throne, and they all fought each other to become the new leader of it. So I think I would love to see Jabba's son. That they, again, you're alluding to Jabba's son from Clone Wars, when Obi-Wan had to save a young child of the Hutts. So I think that there's potential for that. I don't know where he is, and maybe, hopefully, he's not part of the family business. Maybe he's an accountant somewhere. You know,
Yeah.
maybe he decided to not.
Maybe
be
he's a
bad guy.
tailor.
I hope he wears a suit.
Yes.
Yeah, like I hope, to your point, that's brilliant, Andre. Like the DS9 like he was a tailor now, but he was actually a crime boss syndicate. Just like a certain tailor from DS9. Rob, John, your thoughts?
I really liked it. I wasn't sure what was gonna happen. I was like, why is he's gonna like steal all their stuff or whatever, and then he sits on the throne, and Ming-Na goes and grabs that bottle. I'm like, oh no, I hope she's not gonna like I hope she's not gonna like pour him a drink. That's kind of weird. And she just kind of sits on the end and like chugs it, and I was like, that's pretty awesome. So yeah, I'm in, and I liked it. I guess that this has led to all this potential, and maybe they'll take more care in these newer shows. Maybe this is literally, like I said before, the launch pad that gets everything rolling. So
Rob?
Yeah, I thought it was cool. It reminded me at the very end of Conan the Barbarian when you see him sitting on the throne, King Conan.
Oh man, they should add the voiatover.
Yeah, I know, right?
Heavy sits the brow. Yeah,
on the throne of Aquilarius. yeah. So
that's a story for another day.
Who did that? Was that Mako? Mako that did that?
Yeah, it was,
narration? Oh man, Aku, right, from Samurai Jack.
Yeah.
No,
so that's why that's.
The allegory that happened on the internet a lot was people were saying that when Luke was talking with Mando, it was very similar to Gremlins, where he was like, "You are not ready for this little thing." It's like, "One day you will be ready, but I'll take this." Like the exact same thing happened in Gremlins, where it's like, "You're not ready for Gizmo. Like I gotta take this guy back, but one day, like you'll get it." And there's a lot of similes before about when Mando was like Shmi. It was like, don't be afraid. Like, I will see you again. I promise. So they're laying down a lot of foundation to this thing. Like, to both your points, you're right. Action sequences were not necessarily the guns fighting was not as cool, but you don't want to overshadow Luke Skywalker. Luke Skywalker was like, that's not great. But overall, like the build up to it,
it's hard to live. It's hard to live up.
It's hard to live up. Movie. Like, I felt so excited in that 7 minutes than all 7 movies or all 3 Star Wars movies. Like the new trilogy, I sat there watching my wife because she dragged me. I'm just like, when is this thing over? I watched that Luke Skywalker scene like 10 times over and over since the episode is over. I'm like, I just want more Luke Skywalker being awesome. Like, I want a Jedi being an actual Jedi. Because even in...
I was really hyped right up until they revealed his face.
Even, like, Andre and I, like, we have to watch Clone Wars to see Jedis be awesome. Like, it's been that long, and Rebels, even Kanan is like a Jedi, but he's not a Jedi master. Like he's not, like he's a Jedi Knight and Jedi Master, but he's not Luke Skywalker.
Don't be dissing my
Jedi
Kanan.
Master.
Come on, don't be dissing Kanan.
Sorry?
Don't be dissing Freddie Prinze, man. That's his best role. And
like Kanan is fine, but Kanan is not Luke Skywalker. And if you're saying that they're the same, then I have a problem with you, Andre. Because
you know what? I'm not saying that they're the same.
How would it have been cool if that was Kanan instead, and they cast a live action?
Andre would lose his mind, going, "That's effing BS." Because we saw the sacrifice that. Spoiler.
What if it was Freddie Prinze Jr.?
No, it can't be. No. That I think Andre would lose his mind. Like that's even worse. Like to just all of a sudden devalue the sacrifice of a character and be like, "Here they are alive again." You're like, kind of the reason why Uncle Ben never comes back, because you can't. There's the only person who dies, and you're like,
wait till Spider-Man 3, he's coming back, and he's gonna
bring back all the actors back that played him.
To be fair, there's only one Uncle Ben that's alive, that was played in a movie, because the other one is dead. One is alive, played by our president, and then the third never showed up. So we have no idea who the third Uncle Ben is. So maybe in a parallel universe, but there's potential. We got a year. But until then, we got a couple more Star Wars shows coming up. So we will continue to do reviews. We will let Andre pick and choose going forward. We'll not force him to watch anything.
Shout out to Andre, who stuck with watching all of this because we basically forced him.
We basically forced him. But I
think no matter what you all think, if Andre's being critical, we've forced him to watch this. So he could have just... He could have bowed out. So he would have just not watched it.
I would have just not watched it.
All respect to Andre for doing it, but I think the couple shows coming up, we will. I don't think he wants to watch the Rangers of the Outer Rim or the Cara Dune show. He'll maybe watch Ahsoka. So we'll get him back for a thing, and we'll see what Andre feels. As Game of Thrones says, his watch is over. We'll let him pick and choose what he wants. He doesn't have
Well,
to go
you
to the
know,
wall
what the
anymore.
real sad thing is, I'm happy everybody's getting all this Star Wars, and it reminds me of when there was a lot of different book series and stuff for fans to read and stuff. But ultimately, if you don't, it's the one thing that they alluded to at the end of Rebels, and Dave Filoni was in charge, and of all the shows they announced, there wasn't a follow-up to that. And on the Blu-ray special, or the end of season 4 of Rebels, he talks about wanting to tell that story, and he says he has that story to tell. And again, maybe it's selfish of me, but of everything they announced,
you want
they
to,
didn't announce that, and I'll never see it. I'm going on record now saying we will never get an animated Sabine and Ahsoka show to finish off Rebels, and I'm truly sad about that, because no matter what you guys say or everybody out there thinking, Filoni won't be in charge. It'll be Favreau. So whatever he does, it's not going to be what he would have done. It'll have to be changed and adapted and stuff like that. But I'm pretty sure when he was doing the animated stuff, he was the guy and he could do whatever. Now it's going to be made by committee and stuff. And for, if you haven't watched Clone Wars and Rebels, I know some people might think it's a slog, but hey, we're on quarantine, we're on lockdown. If you see how I talk about it with such reverence and stuff, there's a reason I'm comparing it to Mandalorian, and I want Mandalorian to be better. I want these shows to have what those shows had. Give it a watch, and then refute me. Post up, comment up, say, yeah, Andre, you're full of shit. Clone Wars wasn't good, or Rebels wasn't good, or you're out of your mind thinking it's good or whatever. But come at me. But I think if you honestly gave those a chance, and some people don't like the animation or whatever, but we've lost something truly if we never get to see Filoni do something animated again.
Filoni's still
and
alive,
on his own.
so there's always still hope. Andre,
Maybe he'll get like an animated
yeah, but
movie.
you've already said it.
Bigger
Budgets
budget.
in live action. So if I'm going by the Stu thing of writing, that you can't write as good for live action as you can for a cartoon.
It's not. So then
we're really out.
It's money. You can't do the same set pieces because 10 million doesn't go as far as
for sure
$1 million for animation, and you could see it in the set pieces of Rebels. The amount of characters, like Zev alone, if you did that in a show, would cost so much money to be as awesome as he is in Rebels. He is a giant space alien with fur that moves around, and it's like a Chewbacca style. Like, he's just awesome. But to do him properly on live action, all your money would just go to Zev, and then you'd have nothing left. So it's hard to do in terms of also the aliens they have. Like, it's just expensive. And no, that's why humans are easier, and helmets and stuff like that, because you don't have to CGI them. And we know what happens with this. So I don't disagree with you, Andre. It is the pinnacle of Star Wars in the new, after Disney purchased it. It's the highest of peaks, and I agree with you. It's my favorite. I love it with reverence, as you do. But I think that Filoni, like George gave him, passed the torch. And I think Filoni has an eye for talent, and he'll do the exact same thing. I just don't want one person to also have complete dominance and control. George was really good at allowing people to, like Filoni and Timothy Zahn and other people, creatives, to run with his properties. And let's see what happens. We would never get a Filoni if George was like, only I can make Star Wars and only I have the vision. So I'm glad that we'll see what happens. There's good and there's bad. Like,
maybe you'll get a
light side and a dark side.
A Pixar movie full motion picture conclusion.
No, that will not happen. They separate church and state very clearly. But like, again, like, maybe we'll see, like, again, if this is Avengers style where all the people get together and they have to fight Thrawn, and Ezra shows up and Sabine shows up, and this is what they have to do to take out Thrawn, which is a big threat, then we have something to look forward to. So this is maybe their Thanos coming up before they deal with God Snoke. So let's just gloss over that stuff and move on to the next stage. Like, the fact that Star Wars is building up the old Republic stuff in China speaks. That's the thing. We know the Acolyte, and they're going to start doing Star Wars movies where there's nothing but Jedis. So Andre has something to look forward to. There's this era will be gone, and then they'll go back to the old Republic, and that's it. Like, they're pushing hard for China. There's the new Star Wars book out there, and if you look at the pictures and the book cover, you're like, oh yeah, this is very segmented in that area. So that's because the market, no one cares about it outside of North America. Star Wars is a very particular America, Canada, English speaking thing, and they need to make imprints on the largest market in the world. So,
well, yeah, they're also doing that animated visions or the anime style visions. So yeah, maybe they're just trying to broaden the horizon, right?
well,
So.
they got to cash some checks because we can't go to Galaxy's Edge, Andre, because of quarantine. So this is what the problem is. As much as they're like, Galaxy's Edge will be amazing, when I get there, I'm just going to selectively have horse blinders and just like, oh, this is from The Force Awakens. Let me just move to the side a bit. That's something from Rebels, as you've purchased or your friend has purchased for you. Like, I'll be looking for stuff that I'm like, oh, that's great. Like, why can't I buy the Mandalorian helmet or these Mandalorian helmets instead? That's great. I'll buy that stuff, this merch. I'll stay away from the other stuff. So, okay. Well, as we finish up, John and Anjay, where can people find you guys on the internets?
Yeah, so at the time of this recording, we're still in the lockdown, so we're only doing curbside service right now. And then maybe once shipping comes down, we can do shipping. But yeah, follow us on Heroes World Online, the Instagram, the Facebook, and the website. I'm keeping them all updated with whatever our curbside pickup hours are, new products. I'm constantly spamming them on there. So if you don't mind, please follow, and you'll see all those come in, and you can just shoot us a message, and we're arranging stuff for everybody via that method. And then if you're listening on this on the audio, please subscribe, give us a 5-star rating on the iTunes, give us a review. It helps with kind of us popping up in the searches and stuff. And that's Heroes World Podcast, and the link will be, if you're watching this on YouTube, in the bottom.
Yeah, and I want to give a shout out to everybody so far who has been commenting on our podcasts. I also want to shout out to all of our friends and customers who have been sharing the posts that we've been doing. I know we're doing a lot of posts, guys, so we do apologize that you're seeing a lot of stuff, but it's really the only way for us to get the message out there for what product we have. I would please ask you to continue to like, comment, and share, especially on those Facebook and Instagram posts. It just widens who sees them, so like we could post something on Facebook, liking it helps, but if you even drop a comment saying, oh, that's cool, or how much is that, or do you have any more of this, or tag a friend in it, it lets people see it again. And I think
a lot of people are doing it. I'm seeing a lot of tags in the Instagrams. People have been posting us to shop local groups, and people have been finding us that method. So thank you very much for doing that.
It's
really
great.
appreciate it.
And I want to if I can take just a moment to tell a really heartwarming story. I helped a gentleman over the phone on I guess it was maybe Thursday or Friday of this past week, and because of the lockdown he couldn't obviously come in, but I showed him the items that I picked out for him. His son wanted to learn how to paint models, and the guy was very patient. We went through the phone and our pointy page on online, so it was a slog for me to do this, and I kept apologizing. He's like, no, this is great. He ended up buying everything that I recommended, which I thought was fantastic. And I said, hey, thanks for doing this, thanks for supporting. And I'm like, let me give you 10% off for doing that. And he's like, no, he's like, you guys are struggling. That 10% probably means more to you guys right now than to me and my son. And he's just like, I hope you guys will survive. And man, I tell you, faith in humanity restored. It was him returning that gesture that I put out. So listen, thank you for all you guys out there continuing to support us, and to continue to support all the local stores that you can. I know it might not be ideal because we don't have the most fanciest of websites and stuff like that, but that phone call, that Facebook message, that Google message, anything, we're trying to serve you the best we can, and we appreciate it.
Yes, that's very nice of you to share, Andre. Rob?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Rob Gadet. You can also find John and I, if you're listening to this, it is today, it's the 20th, I think, Sunday. Tomorrow, Monday, the 21st, John and I are live on the Sidekicks show at 8 o'clock. You can go on Facebook, Twitch, because John keeps reminding me to plug Twitch, or YouTube. And we are getting close to the end of our worst comic book movie bracket.
We will have a top 3.
I believe tomorrow, Monday, we are doing The New Mutants, which I still have to watch, versus Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. So Definitely tune in. John will be talking about stuff that's in the store. We'll be talking about new releases.
Rob will be demanding the Fury cut for Superman Quest for Peace.
Well,
the 2-hour plus version. That's what he wants to see.
I've already watched it. Plus we'll talk about maybe some of the news items, but mostly just be focusing on this end of bracket stuff to get you. So for those, please tune in tomorrow at 8:00 on Monday.
Awesome. Thank you everyone for liking, subscribing, sharing. We didn't talk about Grogu's fate because we all know he didn't die at Luke's temple. That's
Luke took him and poked him in the eye.
No way that they were gonna kill that he was not gonna survive. That he's probably on Mandalore hanging out. So, but if you do think otherwise, comment below. Let us know if you think Grogu was.
Yes, can the show survive without Grogu, the child?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
I give
props
for Disney. Kylo Ren just actually killed Grogu.
I give props for Disney for getting rid of Grogu because he's a cash money. He's just. But again, for the story arc of the show, hopefully Favreau is now done, and now Filoni can be it's now my time to shine, and he gets from season 3 onwards. So but comment below, let us know about your thoughts on the episode. Let us know your thoughts on Baby Grogu, who maybe years from now we'll be able to talk. And thank you all for listening and watching, and have a good one. Thanks everyone. Bye.
Take care. Thank you, Stu.